Hi, thank you for joining me. In today's exercise, what we're going to do that differentiates itself from some of the previous exercises in this series, I suppose, is we're going to concentrate on grammar concepts and how they apply in real world sentences. And for today's concept, what we're going to address is the verb-subject agreement. And then, of course, hopefully now at this point in your language journey, you're aware that in English, when the subject is singular, its verb also needs to be singular. However, verbs run in a way that seems opposite to what you would expect. So, for instance, if you have a sentence like the Rangers see a cow, right? We've got a plurality of rangers, and yet see, the verb, doesn't have an S at the end, which leads many to believe that, oh, it's singular, whereas it's technically considered in its plural form because it agrees with our plural subject. Whereas opposite of that, if I had a singular subject, like the ranger, I wouldn't say see a cow, it would be sees. So now I'm switching it. I'm adding an S to that verb, whereas the subject is singular and no longer has that S. So think of it as running counter. I know that's not the best explanation, but that's just what I have for the moment. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at a couple sentences. Let me go ahead and zoom in to make sure that it's within view, which it's sort of. Alrighty. All right, so for sentence number one, what we're gonna do is we'll read the sentence first, and you'll notice that we have two different verbs to choose from, and it's gonna be your job to select which verb is most appropriate for the sentence, given what we just discussed about the verb-subject agreement. All right, so the sentence reads, next week, the committee decides whether to approve the new bike lane. All right, hopefully, oh, you know what I'll do? Let's go ahead and break it down. We'll take a look at the subject first. So what I'd like you to do is let's go ahead and identify the subject of the sentence. Let me go ahead and just grab my computer for a quick second. Alrighty, so let's find the subject of our sentence, which, next week, well, we're not talking about next week, that's the time in which it's occurring, but we're referring more specifically to the committee. Make sure to include that definitive article. And I'm gonna go ahead and just underline our subject. Great, we've got our subject. Well, now we need to determine which verb is going to be most appropriate to agree with said subject. Well, committee, it's a collective noun, so we're talking about a plurality of people, but it's a singular collective noun. It does not end with an S. So, in order for the subject to agree with the verb, I need to select the singular, we call it singular verb, which is decides, even though it ends with an S. So they kind of run, well, they do run in opposite directions, not quite what you would expect. So instead of next week the committee decide whether to approve the new bike lane would be incorrect. It would be decides. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at sentence number two. Forgive me if I'm going too quickly. A swarm of bees either chase or chases a foolish young cub that wanted their honey. All right, go ahead and identify the subject. I'll give you a few seconds. Hopefully you identified the subject as being a swarm of bees, right? Bees, we know it's a swarm, that's our collective noun. Bees, there's many, many bees. It ends with an S, so my verb to agree should also be plural, which, as I mentioned, runs counter to what you would expect. So instead of chases, it would be chase. How about sentence three? Let's go ahead and take a look. Bunches of grapes rot or rots inside a misplaced crate. Go ahead and find our subject. You're correct. We're talking about bunches, which is our collective noun, of grapes. Okay, ends with an S. Should it be rot or should it be rots? It should be rot. Bunches of grapes rot inside a misplaced crate. Very unfortunate waste of food. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up with sentence number four. This pair of shoes either hurts or hurts my feet and either needs or need to be returned to the store. So we're still talking about which subject. What's our subject of the sentence? Well, we're talking about this pair of shoes. So the pair, or this pair of shoes. So we're going to continue to use those definitive articles. Okay, shoes ends with an S. We're talking about a plurality of shoes. The verb that I would select would be hurt. Hurt my feet, and need, so you want to stay consistent, right? Need to be returned to the store, period. All right, we'll go ahead and conclude it there. Again, verb-subject agreement. And this, by the way, doesn't apply, this rule doesn't apply to simple past tense. So just recognize that. We'll talk about it more in the future. But in this example, verb-subject agreements, the verb, if plural, the subject, if plural, should also have a plural verb, but it will run opposite. So it won't end with, like, let's say, for instance, the subject ends with an S. That means your verb is not going to end with an S, unless, of course, it's embedded in the word itself, but typically not the case. Same thing if you have a singular subject, so there's no S at the end, your verb would have an S appended to the end. So it seems like it doesn't make sense, but that's the case. All right. So hopefully this video was helpful, not too confusing. I look forward to working with you in the next exercise where we'll dig further into this, hopefully. All right, bye. Oh, please subscribe, of course, and like the video if you did find it helpful. I would very much appreciate it.